also forgot to introduce this lovely gentleman right here. This will be your rum host for the evening, and his name is Andrew, all right, guys? So any questions about the alcohol? Gotcha, man.
Got it.
Okay? Now, one more time. Are you ready to get wasted?
Everybody's name.
All right, there you go.
Why not?
Thank you, Brandy.
You're welcome.
How's everyone doing?
Brandy.
All right, welcome aboard the Rum Cruise. Just have a quick question for you guys. How many of you are also on the all-inclusive beverage package aboard the Norwegian Cruise? And you chose the Rum Cruise as your excursion. Just want to take a moment to highlight that. Thank you. You know, all these young kids are drinking less alcohol now, and you know, people are trying to be more healthy, but you guys are my heroes, so keeping me employed. So as Brandy says, my name is Andrew. I work with Goslins, so we're going to give you a little crash course on rum today. We started off with a rum swizzle. How many of you had a swizzle before getting on the boat today? Only a few of you. All right. So swizzle is a traditional island cocktail. It gets its name from the swizzle stick. The swizzle stick is a piece of the allspice tree they would prune off and use to stir the cocktail. So technically any drink stirred with a swizzle stick is a swizzle. But Bermuda became infamous for its rum swizzle, which is always a blend of Goslins rum, fruit juice, syrup, and bitters. We have little recipe cards we're going to distribute at the end of the cruise that has the recipe on there. But I'm sure you've already all been on our website and follow us on social media and seen all that already. But the most famous swizzle maker in Bermuda is the late Sheila Goslin. And Sheila used to make her swizzle in a Maytag washing machine. You know, the old Ringer model from like the 1960s?
Commercial style.
Yeah, so Goslin still has Sheila's washing machine. It's like a family heirloom, and it gets used at special events and everything. So there's a great video on our website of Sheila's daughter Fiona and her grandson Weston telling the stories of the washing machine. But you guys remember those Ringer models, right?
Yeah.
Open round, so you pour the rum, the fruit juice, the bitters, everything in there. The agitator mixes it instantly. But Sheila, being the genius that she was, she used to slice lemons and limes in half and then jam it through the Ringer, and it actually juices it into the cocktail below. So yeah, it's ideal if you need to make a bulk cocktail for an event. Holds about 16 gallons, so yeah, it's quite convenient. And Sheila passed away in 2011, and she told her grandson Weston, said, "Weston, if you use my washing machine, make sure you fill it up." That was like one of her last requests. Like, don't go halfway, you gotta fill it all the way up. But swizzle's fun because everywhere you go around the island, each bartender has a little bit of a different recipe. It always contains lots of rum, a little bit of fruit juice, and some bitters. The Swizzle In, you guys haven't been there yet? Okay, do you remember the slogan? Oh, you didn't have enough fun if you remember the slogan, but absolutely correct. Swizzle in and swagger out. So the Swizzle In is dedicated to the rum swizzle, and they actually buy Goslins rum in 200-liter barrels instead of the bottles. That's how much swizzle they go through down at the Swizzle In. So we got a couple different products we're going to sample today. You guys just get to relax. The crew's going to serve you. I'm going to introduce those real quick so you know what we're drinking. The first product is exclusive to Bermuda. Has anyone ever been to Bermuda before?
Yep.
You. All right. So you may have tasted Bermuda Gold liqueur. So this is a liqueur that we only sell on the island, and it's made from loquat fruits. Anyone ever heard of those?
Yes. Yeah.
What are they? They're a plum. Okay, so the loquats were introduced here to Bermuda in the early 1700s. They're originally from China, but they grow in subtropical regions around the world. So being a plum, it has little seeds in it. We use the whole fruit. So the liqueur has almost like an almondy taste. Absolutely delicious. And we only sell it here because it keeps people coming back to the island so we can get another bottle. So we're going to start out the tasting with that, and then we'll get into the rums. The first rum we're going to sample today is the flagship rum for the Goslin family. This is Goslin's Black Seal Rum. You guys familiar with this?
Yes.
All right. This is the #1 selling spirit in Bermuda. It's also the #1 export from the island, which actually says nothing for it at all. It's the only thing we export. In Bermuda, we make rum and babies. Everything else comes in 20-foot shipping containers from New Jersey. So Black Seal is a big part of our culture here in Bermuda. So we're going to learn all about that. We're going to sample it on the rocks, and then we're going to add ginger beer. And when you mix Black Seal rum and ginger beer, that makes our national drink in Bermuda, the Dark and Stormy. You guys know that drink?
Yes.
How many of you have never tried a Dark and Stormy? What have you been doing all day? So you're familiar with ginger beer?
Yes.
Okay. not ginger flavored beer. It's soft drink, although they do make alcoholic ginger beers now, which makes things pretty confusing. But traditional ginger beer contains no alcohol. Goslins, we started making ginger beer in 2009, so relatively recently. The Goslins ginger beer, you can find this all over the world now. It's the #1 selling ginger beer in America.
Yep.
Even Walmart sells it.
Yep.
Not sure how I feel about that, but they buy lots of it, so it's great. So we introduced that in 2009, as well as the diet ginger beer. This is my boss, Malcolm Gosling's favorite. He calls it dark and skinny instead of dark and stormy. He likes to drink a lot of them, so you gotta watch the calories, you know. So this is made in partnership with a company called Polar Beverages in Worcester, Massachusetts. And Polar is a family-owned business as well, so it was important for Goslins, being a family business, to partner with them. So you're going to get a little bit of the Black Seal rum on the rocks. I just want you to have a little sip of it to try the rum, and then the crew will give you a choice of regular or diet ginger beer. Exclusive to Bermuda, it's a limited edition rum that we did in 2021. Yes, so this is called Goslins Flora Gold Rum. So I don't know if anyone follows triathlon, but Flora won Olympic gold in triathlon in Tokyo in 2021. That was Bermuda's second Olympic medal ever and first gold medal. So as you could imagine, the whole island was excited and we wanted to celebrate. And the only way we knew how was to make a rum. So we did. But Flora, obviously a proud Bermudian, and she went to high school with some of the 8th generation of the Goslin family. So there's now 6 members of the 8th generation working in the business. So pretty amazing. They're all in their like mid-30s. So when Flora won, we reached out to her and said, what do you think about doing a rum to commemorate your victory? She was all about it. And her only request was that the proceeds go to charity. So in 2017, she set up a charity called the Flora Fund to help other Bermudian athletes to achieve their goals. So once we pay customs and the cost of the rum, the net proceeds goes back to charity. And it's absolutely delicious rum and a very different style from the Black Seal. So we'll talk about what makes them different colors and all that good stuff. And so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to sample that with a little bit of ice, so you can just taste the rum to compare it against the Black Seal. And then we're going to mix it with one of our new products, Gosling's Peach Ginger Beer. Okay, peach with a hint of lemon. We started making this in 2023. It's sold in the U.S. now alongside all the others, and it's absolutely delicious. Hope you guys enjoy it. The last rum we're going to taste for today, one of my personal favorites, is Gosling's Family Reserve Old Rum. So we're going to drink this rum neat. Does anyone know what that means? Yeah, no ice, no chaser. Okay. Good rum doesn't need chaser, bad rum doesn't deserve it. I like to think of it here in Bermuda. So old rum is based on the same blend as the Black Seal rum, but aged a lot longer in once-used bourbon barrels. Does anyone know why we use old bourbon barrels for aging rum?
Because we can only use them once in the United States for no more than 10 years.
That's
and
right.
Then they have to be shipped away
Absolutely.
And not be used
Which
again.
means they're cheap. Because once they use them once for aging bourbon, they have to sell them. Okay, so in order to be considered bourbon, it has to be aged in a brand new American oak barrel. So it's what we call a grandfather law. It's put into effect many years ago, but it protects the lumber industry and the jobs of the coopers who build all these barrels. So it's not unique to Goslins. The whole rum industry buys old bourbon barrels for aging the rum, as well as a lot of tequila. If you drink reposado or añejo tequila, most of that's aged in old bourbon casks, and a lot of whiskey as well. So the old rum is something that Bermudians save for very special occasions. Okay, birthdays, graduations, anniversaries, divorces, anything you really want to celebrate, we have a little bottle of old rum. So I'm happy you guys are going to enjoy some with us this evening. And again, if you guys have any questions as we're going through this, please let us know. We're also going to be selling duty-free. Oh yeah, Jason, you got lots of questions. I have none of your answers. So we're also going to be selling duty-free this evening at the end of the cruise. So the way that works is all the products that we sampled today, as well as some other Bermuda exclusive items, are available for purchase, and then we deliver it to the boat tomorrow, and then they give it to you at the end of the cruise. But most of you are on the all-inclusive beverage package. You don't need it till the end of the cruise anyway. But yeah, it's a very convenient way to order all the products. So you can do that with us after the cruise.
This is a Black Seal. No, just look what?
Anyone got any questions so far? We're doing good?
Tom, that's stuff.
All right. So we're going to taste the liqueur first. We'll pour that on a little bit of ice. Liz is handing that out now. Bermuda Gold liqueur is 56 proof. You want to know what that means? It means it's good. So if you ever see the term proof, you divide that in two, and that gives you alcohol by volume. So 56 proof is 28% alcohol. All the rums we're going to drink today are 80 proof, therefore 40% alcohol. And that's pretty standard. We call that bottle strength in the industry. We also make overproof rum. Anyone know how strong that is? 151 proof. So you can do the math, it's 75.5% alcohol. So overproof rum, the black seal here, comes with red on the label. Red usually means stop and look both ways, right? So overproof rum is traditionally used for batching rum swizzles, or you float like a half ounce on top of a tiki style drink. You wouldn't traditionally use overproof rum for making highballs. But it's so flammable that almost 20 years ago now, they banned it for sale at the airport. So back in the day, passengers could buy a bottle, take it right on the plane, But then they got worried, so they told us we could no longer sell the 151 at the airport.
Take it over there.
So we understood, and we wrote them a letter and said, we get it, what's the strongest we can sell? So they responded with 140 proof. So we printed some new labels and had it back on the shelf in like a week. Obviously, we added a little more water to it and brought it down to 140 proof. The 140 is just as flammable as 151, but it meets FAA guidelines. But you guys are on a cruise, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, but there's 3 different proofs in the Black Seal, just so in case you see it. The 140 is just for travel retail. But yeah, that's the 151 there.
It works as a good base if you make your own bitters.
That's absolutely right. You guys know what bitters are? Yeah, I know. Yeah, we can tag team this. Yeah. So bitters, the traditional bitters that we use here in Bermuda are Angostura aromatic bitters, and that's what goes into rum swizzle, goes into Manhattans, and all kinds of great stuff like that. The base for Angostura is rum. So they take rum and they add all these herbs and spices in a very secret recipe, and then blend it all together. So that's what makes bitters. So they all have an alcoholic base to them. So what do you guys think of the liqueur? Good, right? You can see why we only sell it here? Yeah. So this is the Bermuda Gold in the bottle straight out of 1970. Yeah, we haven't updated it since the 70s. Yeah, family business. We're actually going to upgrade it for next year. So when you guys come back next year, you're going to see a whole new look for Bermuda Gold liqueur. It doesn't even say loquat on the bottle anywhere, right? It's like very mysterious. So that's the ingredient. So loquats were introduced to Bermuda in the 1740s, actually, and they're a member of the plum family, as I mentioned. And Bermuda used to have citrus crops all over the island, and we don't have a lot of those anymore. But the loquats were introduced because when they introduced this bird called the kiskadee, you might have seen it around the island, little yellow breast, and it's very annoying. Anyway, but it started eating all the citrus blossoms, and then so they were upset that the citrus crops were getting damaged by this new bird. So they figured out that the loquats blossom at the same time as the citrus. So they introduced those, and the kiskadees started eating the loquat blossoms instead of eating all the citrus blossoms. And now we have more loquat trees than people on the island. But Bermudians use the fruit for all kinds of stuff. And probably just at the end of loquat season right now. If there's some on the tree, they'd probably be very dark yellow and maybe a little bit rotten. But we do scavenge them to make the liqueur, which is why we don't export it, because we don't make enough to export. So it's just a traditional local liqueur. And Bermudians use the fruit to make loquat jam or loquat chutney. My friend's mother makes loquat upside down cake. Insane. Yeah, so good. So I'm glad you guys enjoy it. While you're enjoying the rest of the liqueur, I'm just going to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about Goslins and the family, and then we'll get into drinking the rum. We're going to cruise down here towards Mangrove Bay and see what the sunset brings us this evening. So Goslins, I mentioned earlier, they're a family business. They're originally from England. They were wine and spirit merchants in England and wanted to expand the business to the new colonies in America. So in 1806, William Goslin chartered a ship called the Mercury and loaded the boat up with 10,000 pounds sterling worth of wines and spirits. So you can just imagine a pirate ship full of booze. And William, being the brave guy he was, decided he was going to stay in England where he could oversee the business. And he asked his eldest son, James Goslins, to get on the boat to make the voyage across the Atlantic. Obviously, James was pretty excited to be getting on a boat with that much of his father's alcohol. The world's first booze cruise set sail, and they never made it to America. So fortunately for us here in Bermuda, they would be calmed at sea, which meant there wasn't a lot of wind, and the captain said to James that your charter's running out. We either have to go back to England, or we're going to drop you off in Bermuda, which was the closest British port. So James did not want to go back to England and decided to push on to Bermuda. And after 91 days at sea, they finally arrived in St. George's, which is way up in the east end of the island and the original settlement for Bermuda. If you guys get the opportunity to go to St. George's, it's a magical place. UNESCO World Heritage Sites, very, very nice. So the Goslins set up shop right in the King Square in St. George's and began selling all the wines and spirits they had from England. So that would have been brandy, whiskey, gin, and fortified wines like port and sherry. They did not have any rum. In 1809, just 3 years after the Goslins arrived, construction began on the Royal Naval Dockyard, where we just left. So that was the British Navy's Atlantic outpost. And we all know what the British Navy likes to do, right? Go sailing. With rum, right? They wouldn't even leave the dock unless they had enough rum for their daily tot. And they would get that twice a day. A tot is a measurement of 1/8 of an imperial pint. So it's like 4 ounces of rum. But they would get that twice a day, so that's about 8 ounces of rum. And Navy strength rum is not 80 proof, it's usually over 100 proof. It kind of varied depending on where it was coming from. So the Goslins knew with the British arrived and there was going to be demand for rum. But you guys have spent enough time here to realize it's a pretty small island and we don't have enough land to cultivate the sugarcane you need to produce rum. So the Goslins began sourcing rums from all over the West Indies, shipping them to Bermuda, and experimented with blending and aging the rum to create their own style. So originally it was only sold on draft, so that meant you had to bring in your own bottle and they would fill it up right out of the barrel that the rum was aging in. So no one makes bottles or anything like that here, so in the late 1800s, up to the 1900s, bottles were very scarce. So you bring in your own bottle. After World War I, they started to recycle old champagne bottles, very similar to this, which they got from their #1 customer in Bermuda, the British Navy. They were having a grand time here on the island. So they would deliver champagne to the dockyard from their shop, which was now located in Hamilton. And then they would take the once-used champagne bottles back to their shop. They said they cleaned them up and then began filling them with rum, putting a used cork in it, and sealing the cork with black wax. So originally the rum was called Old Rum. They were not exactly marketing geniuses. They aged it in the barrel for a while and called it Old Rum. But Bermudians are big on nicknames, so they would see the bottle on the shelf with no label and the black wax, and they would ask for the rum with the black seal. It only took Goslins about 40 years to clue in, realizing they were the only ones still calling it Old Rum. Everyone else had nicknamed it the Black Seal. And there was a gentleman by the name of Francis Goslin who illustrated the barrel juggling seal as a play on words for the wax seal. Has nothing to do with our abundant seal population. You saw them, right? No? You want to see the seals?
Yeah.
There's 3 at the aquarium. Goslin sponsors the exhibit. Yeah, great. They've been there a while, like since I was a kid. So the black seal is a big part of our culture, and we do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. But Dark and Stormy is our national drink here in Bermuda. I don't know if you're aware, but Bermuda is a British dependent territory, so that means we carry British passports and we sing God Save the King. But we wanted to figure out a way to express our national identity, and everyone agreed an alcoholic beverage was the best way to do that. So Dark and Stormy is our national drink. And ginger beer is a British tradition. They actually started production of ginger beer right in the Royal Naval Dockyard. So the Navy would carry it with them to their colonies. Ginger is good to help settle your stomach, so it was good when you were getting seasick out on the water. So that's why they had ginger beer. And they started selling the ginger beer to the locals, and it didn't take long for the Bermudians to figure out what the ginger beer was missing. A little bit of Black Seal rum, yeah. And when the rum floats on top of the ginger beer, it looks like a storm cloud. So that's where the name Dark and Stormy came from. There's no one individual credited with discovering it. It was just a nickname that the drink got. The Goslins was smart enough to trademark the name in 1980. So Dark and Stormy is one of only a handful of cocktails in the world that is trademarked. Not because they're trying to discourage other rums from mixing with ginger beer, because there are lots of rums that are delicious with ginger beer, but it's not a Dark and Stormy. In the 1970s, Goslins introduced a ready-to-drink Dark and Stormy in a can. Obviously now canned cocktails are trendy all over the world, but it was here in Bermuda that the Bermudian lifestyle demanded a portable Dark and Stormy. So we call this the mobile device. But it's everything you need. You can take this out to the boat, the golf course, the beach, the ferry, the bus. Anywhere you need that perfectly mixed Dark and Stormy. So that's what it looks like nowadays. It's been through a couple different cans over the years. But in 2022, we also introduced flavored Dark and Stormies. So we have a couple. The most popular flavor in Bermuda is mango, go figure. And then we also have a pineapple flavor, which is number 2. And then black cherry, which is the least popular flavor here, but the most popular flavor in the U.S. So it's just amazing different flavor profiles. But they're absolutely delicious. They're all natural, pasteurized, no preservatives, rum, ginger beer, natural flavors. So absolutely delicious. Pardon? So we don't distill here in Bermuda. It's actually illegal to distill on the island. So in the early 1800s, we started sourcing rums from all over the place, and Barbados is definitely one of those islands. We also source rum from Jamaica, Trinidad, and then British Guyana. So those are all the old British West Indies, and we've had relationships with these distilleries for generations. But in 2018, we started lobbying the government to create a distillery act, which they actually did in 2023. So that only took 5 years, but we got it across the line. And we actually just finished a feasibility study on establishing a distillery here on the island. So it's within our 5-year plan to build a distillery here. But that would only produce one component of rum that we need. You know, we're still going to have to import rums for blending here in Bermuda. There's a couple of breweries now. You can ferment beer here. Soon comes.
We do diet all the time, so I'm going to try straightforward. Full octane.
Yeah, we do. Another good question. We do have 2 other liqueurs. Coconut rum, right here, in the same 1970s vintage bottle. Yeah, it's only sold here too. But you can, after the cruise, if anyone wants to taste the coconut, you can come downstairs and see us at the bar. And then we also have a banana liqueur, which is extremely popular as well. So we do the Bermuda Gold, coconut, and banana. So as you can see, Captain Bob is taking us through the little channel here. There's reefs all over the island. You probably noticed you had to go a weird way to get to Dockyard. That's all because of the reef line. So Bermuda is the most northerly coral reef formation in the world, thanks to the warm waters of the Gulf Stream. So that runs just east of the island, or west of the island, which keeps the water temperature here warm, which allows the coral reef to flourish. So we have very healthy coral reefs here, and very strict fishing regulations as well. So they're not overfished yet. But we do love fish here in Bermuda because we get surrounded by ocean and all kinds of delicious fish. Has anyone tried Bermuda fish chowder? Since you've been here? Wow. What were you guys doing all that? So I highly recommend trying Bermuda fish chowder while you're here. It's a traditional soup that gets, well, the history of it dates back to the fishermen. They would go out and catch the fish, and then they sell the fillet. That's where the money is, in the fillet. So they had the rack of the fish left over and the offcuts. So they would boil the rack down to make fish stock, add all the offcuts of fish, and then tomatoes, vegetables, onions, spices, and black seal rum. But what happens when you cook with rum? It tastes better. So all rum, when it starts out, is crystal clear. So just like that. And that's the same for brandy and whiskey. Anything that's distilled comes off the still clear. This is our silver rum. We only sell this in Bermuda too. We're selfish. We keep all the good stuff here. We share a lot of good stuff internationally too. But yeah, so we actually age this in the bourbon barrels for 2 years. And it comes out of the barrel, it almost looks like Chardonnay. Got a little color from the oak. And then we filter it through charcoal and that's what makes it crystal clear. So the Flora Gold that you're tasting here has been aged for 7 years in the once used bourbon cask. So that's where it gets that nice golden color, is from the oak. Black Seal is obviously a lot darker.
Yeah.
You're never going to get that dark from aging in a barrel. Black Seal is actually a blend of 3 different rums that are aged independently. The youngest age is for 3 and the oldest for 8. So it's still a youthful rum, which is why you can cook it with, dump it on your roof, or flambe bananas, whatever. But we do blend a little bit of molasses back into the Black Seal rum, and that's what makes it a black rum. So Flora Gold we consider a dark rum. Our silver rum we consider white or silver. We also make an amber rum as well. Even though it's similar in color to the Flora Gold, it's a very different flavor profile. In the early 1900s, it was hard to get whiskey in Bermuda, so they blended this style of rum to fill the gap in the whiskey market, trying to get the whiskey drinkers to convert to rum, and it worked. So this style is also very popular with the locals, and it's similar to a Barbados style of rum, like Mount Gay Eclipse or something like that. This is a very similar style of rum to that. And when you make a swizzle, you always blend at least two different styles of rum. So it's made with the Black Seal and a gold rum as well. We also do a ready-to-drink rum swizzle. This is the Swizzle-In swizzle. Comes in the liter. How much alcohol is in this? Again, 19%. Most Bermudians add more rum to this because they're crazy. Most visitors add more fruit juice, which is 19%. And then we're also involved in partnership with a product called 9 Parishes Rum Swizzle, which is absolutely delicious as well. Comes in a beautiful bottle. But this is made by a local guy, Chris Herbert. He's famous for his swizzle recipe. So we created a blend of rum for him, which he uses to make the 9 Parishes. So it's absolutely delicious. New Jersey and Hamilton, Bermuda. So we took 60 once-used bourbon barrels, filled them up with rum, and left it in a shipping container at the bottom of the hull. And this is the second release, volume 2 of Spirited Seas. This particular rum did 84 Atlantic crossings between New Jersey and Bermuda, just back and forth. So it's not an original idea that the British Navy discovered when they were shipping rum from the West Indies to London. It was better by the time it got to the other side, and everything was shipped in barrels back in the day. Barrels are, well, the pallet is a modern day equivalent of a barrel, right? Dry goods, everything was shipped in barrels. So leaving the container on the boat, it's what they call dynamic aging, so it's constantly moving back and forth in the barrel. But in this case, it's the temperature contrast between New Jersey and Bermuda also causes the barrels to expand and contract. So that's where that beautiful color in the rum comes from, is just the oak. Whereas the Black Seal, obviously, it's got a little bit of color added to it. So this is a nice dry rum. It's a little higher proof as well. We do export this. It's not just sold in Bermuda. You can get it in the U.S. and the UK right now, not in Canada and some of our other markets yet, because we didn't make a lot. The first release was only 60 barrels, so that's not a whole lot of rum. And the second time we put 120 barrels on the boat and doubled down. And we just took volume 3 off the boat last month, so we'll be bottling that up pretty soon. So it's a perpetual offering. The old rum, we only bottle this once a year as well, and each bottle is hand labeled, hand numbered, and dipped in the wax. The Spirited Seas is 8-year-old rum before it goes on the boat, so it's almost 10 years by the time it's bottled. Old rum, on the other hand, is a lot older. So this is based on the Black Seal blend. We take the Black Seal, the finished rum, put it back in the barrels, into once-used bourbon barrels, and continue to age it. Once it's bottled, the youngest rum in this blend is 16 years and the oldest is 20. So that's why we save it for special occasions and sip it neat. So when you're tasting 80 proof neat rum, it's not like a wine tasting. Don't take a gulp and swirl it all around your mouth. It's not very pleasant. So the rums you tried earlier were all on ice, which obviously mellows down the alcohol quite a bit. So my strategy for this is take tiny little sips, like really small sips to start. And that helps your palate adjust to the strength of the rum. And then you can appreciate the character that is developed from aging in the once-used bourbon barrels. So each bottle has the bottle number as well as the bottling date on the bottom. And it's absolutely delicious. And I'm going to pour it for you because the crew's not allowed to touch the old rum.
Hold on tight.
But Liz is going to give you a cup. Yeah. But no, we don't want a sun deck 3 coming up, right?
Andrew,
He
do they
decided.
re-blacken the barrels before they age,
For the black seal rum, we do rechar the once used bourbon barrels.
Okay.
When they make a brand new bourbon barrel, they season the barrel, which
Right.
means they heat it up with steam, and then they either toast or char the barrel.
Right.
So that char in the inside of the barrel creates a layer of charcoal, which actually helps to filter the spirit as it ages in the barrel. So if you've ever owned a Brita filter, all that's in that little white thing is activated charcoal.
I just didn't know if you like rechurned them. Like
Yeah,
if
we
you
do,
went
and that
to-
helps to get the color.
Okay, yeah.
When you rechar it, it helps to get it darker. For the gold and amber rums, we don't rechar the barrel.
Okay.
It just goes right in there.
Okay, thank you.
And Brandy, can you put on some drinking music for us, please?
Drinking.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.